And for a Christian, it's clear cut. I do not believe a Christian, a real Christian, can vote Democratic, because you are voting to continue the slaughter of babies and continue the advocacy of LGBTQ, which is just destructive perversion in the culture, transgender, and the anti-God blasphemous accoutrements that come along with all of that. So not only do I think Christians have to vote righteousness, in other words, you're going to take the side of those who are most likely going to uphold biblical standards of righteousness. Not only should you do that, you must do that. To say, well, I'm not going to vote, is irresponsible when God wants you to take a stand for righteousness' sake. One way to think of it is, if you were the only person who could make the decision about whether you would want someone in power who slaughtered babies and believed in that, or someone who didn't, and you were the only person to vote, I think you'd vote, and you'd vote for what was right. Well, in God's eyes, you are that one person. I don't think a Christian can shirk that responsibility. And I don't think it makes any sense, and you hear these evangelical leaders say, well, we don't want to be one-issue Christians, and, you know, we got to have this two tiers, and, you know, we know how we feel about these sinful things, but we don't want to make a judgment on one party or another having ways to deal with them. There are not two ways to deal with these issues. There's advocacy on the one part that's aggressive. We're going to keep these sins going. We're going to keep them legal. We're going to keep pumping them out to next generation, to children. We're going to go into the schools and we're going to pound their brains with CRT. So you have no opportunity, I don't think, as a true Christian to sit on the sidelines and be indifferent. Certainly not to vote for that. Then you have complicity. This is voting for murder and perversion is not an option for a Christian on any level, and I think it's come down to that. There are not necessarily a lot of differences now in how Republicans function in economics or social structure, but they still are, for the most part, and I'm not saying this about their personal lives, but for the most part, their advocacy is on the side of biblical morality as opposed to the blatant attacks on that. So I've always said that we don't pick candidates based on anything other, or even policy, anything other than what we think is biblical, and we encourage our people, take a stand for righteousness.